If you've looked at Climbing Magazine in the past 3 decades, you've already seen Matt Samet at work. Welcome to Season 2 of Home Climbing Wall TV, which is kind of like MTV Cribs, except it's all about home climbing walls. I'm your host, Chris Gonzalez, and in this episode, we're headed to Boulder, Colorado to check out the wall of Matt Samet. Matt's been writing for Climbing Magazine for over 30 years, and as if that wasn't enough, he was desk editor for a decade of that. Now he's bringing his skills to the broader community as a whole to help people tell their stories of adventure and so much more. If you want to learn more about working with him, you can check him out in the description below. And while you're down there, you can also check out our sponsor, the Movement Training Company, where it is our job to help outdoor enthusiasts prepare their bodies to adventure forever. We do this through online programs that focus on optimizing your mobility, your sleep, your recovery, and so much more. So make sure you check that out because we have some new slots opening for the Adventure Forever program very soon. All right, without further ado, let's start this tour.
Hi, I'm Matt Samet, and this is my home climbing wall in Boulder, Colorado. We moved into this house 10 years ago, pretty much exactly. We had a 1-year-old at the time, and I wasn't sure how much time I was going to have to get to the gym and or to the rocks, and I just wanted to have my own home training facility so that I'd have somewhere convenient to go. So when we moved in 2012, one of the things that we've been looking for when we bought a house was it had to have a 2-car garage. We put in what you see here, which is part of the original wall. This is probably a 20-degree overhang, and it ties into this little panel of roof we have now, which actually used to extend all the way across the garage to a 45-degree wall. And then it sort of formed an igloo at the back of the garage. So you had this, 15 or 20. There's a little roof here, which I know is a little funky, but this is because this is actually the back of our closet in the front of the house. So this stuck out in the garage already, so we framed it. A lot of people come over and they go, what do you guys have this roof for? It's a very sort of 80s thing, this 90-degree roof. Not something you'd see anymore. And as you can see, I didn't put holes all the way up because you would sort of be halfway up the roof with either your feet under it or your feet right at the lip. A little bit awkward. So, you know, another thing we did was we framed both sides of the door so that you could kind of have a continuous wall. So there's these little vertical strips right here. I had to cut out a hole for the light switch. Then you come over to this wall, which is also part of the original build, and I think this is about 10 degrees over. You know, this is sort of the longest panel, and it ties in. If you look in that back corner, when it originally tied into the 45, there's some little angled panels there, which is actually pretty cool. So you had this kind of a Rhett-like feature corner. And then this is where we had the original 45-degree wall that tied into the roof. So originally, I would mostly train kind of power endurance on here, and I just had circuits that came out the roof, looped around, finished on the wall. In 2019, I got really into moonboarding, and I thought, why not upgrade this wall and get a you know, a moonboard type setup in here. Through my job at Climbing Magazine, I reached out to Ben Moon and Boone Speed, and at that point, they were all kind of working on Moon Climbing North America, which was distribution for the North American moonboard, and then that sort of fizzled. At that point, Boone and some partners had started up his company Grasshopper, you know, Grasshopper Systems, and they've since gone on to create their own hold system in that. But this is from Boone, and this is a Grasshopper master wall, and I think it was one of the first few that they made. I know there's been tweaks to it since then, but this is actually an adjustable angle Grasshopper frame. And then I originally had the 2017 moonboard set on it, and then updated to the 2019 set in, I think, summer of 2020. Yeah, after it came out. You know, so basically, this is the moonboard at 40 degrees on the Grasshopper frame. We had a storage area up above that we basically cut into to create this little pocket that the board sticks up into. You know, I have kind of the typical 8-foot ceiling in the garage. We needed a lot more vertical than that. You know, originally we didn't think we were gonna have to go that far back. Like with the pocket, it was closer to the moonboard, but we realized that when you're lunging for those final holds, you know, sometimes your head and neck are swinging out, and if if the wall is too close to you, you're just not going to have the room to kind of do those final moves. So we took over more of the storage area than we thought we were going to. You know, the Grasshopper wall and the moon board, pretty straightforward, pretty much what you see at a gym. You know, the one limiting factor I think is that on the sides of the board, you know, I'm up close against this wall. So when you have problems where you're lunging hard to the right, sometimes your feet will kick into this wall, and you have to either be prepared, or there's just some problems that you can't quite do in my garage. You know, if they're sort of violently, aggressively lunging to the right, sometimes it's like, well, that's probably not a good idea. And then up here on the left, where the board sticks up into the pocket, you can see there's a beam that's one of the joists. And you don't want to be kind of lunging too out of control over there. I've never had any accidents yet, but there have been times like when a friend was sitting down there and I whiffed the lunge and came like, you know, careering down and missed the pads and landed down there. So again, that's the one thing that I sort of have to consider, is that most of the action sort of takes place in the center of the board, you know, because of the constraints of the space constraints of the garage. I use these circuit walls to train power endurance. So they have problems on them that are 20 to 40 moves in length. And I've set them all basically up so that they either start or finish at this hold and start or finish on that right or ret. So you can link different problems into other problems. And another thing that you can do is you can do a circuit and you can come to this jug, shake out, and then you can launch into a moonboard problem. It's been a while since I've done that, but you know, it's interesting. It almost doesn't really matter how hard the moonboard problem is, even if it's quote unquote easy. And even if you get depumped by the time you get here, when you leave these less steep walls and then transition to the moonboard, it's all crux. So that's been I think a useful training tactic. It's not one I always use because honestly it's so hard that I often just get here and do like 2 moves on the moonboard and fail. You know, so that can end up making for a 50 move circuit, which is akin to like, you know, a fairly lengthy sport route. You know, one that has a crux at the top too. So I think it does a good job of simulating the sport climbing experience. I've tried to make the space as user-friendly as possible. We have triple padding. Most of the foundation here is futons. And then we have some oversized crash pads, and I put some sticky mats down so that things don't slip around too much. I have a leaf blower that I maybe once or twice a month, I'll just open the garage door and I'll blow out all the mank off the pads, and I'll blow out all the chalk dust, and I'll blow out the back of the Grasshopper frame so you can get too much gunk building up. I think that's been helpful for the longevity of components and T-nuts and bolts and things like that, not having too much chalk dust settling. I ordered some LED lighting off Amazon, which is nice just to kind of brighten things up and make it snazzy. I have a humidifier, it's not on right now. It's often very dry in this garage and I have problems with dry skin. So I turn on that humidifier on days where my skin is feeling glassy or the holds don't feel very good. And then in that corner, I have that heater. You know, I have like the kind of big industrial heater with the outlet that, you know, you use like for your dryer. I had that put in. You know, we're in Colorado, we're in northern Colorado, it can get quite cold here. So I have a Cadet, the hot one heater that I think was probably one of the best investments I've made for this wall. I can come out here and the garage can be 25 degrees and I leave that thing on for an hour and I come back and it's 55 degrees. It's really nice. And in the summer I have an air conditioning unit that I'll put in the door and I'll vent all the hot air out into the house and it blows cool air in here. I think another thing that is pretty key for a home wall is just having a little step ladder, like a handy little light one you can pick up for hold maintenance and for brushing, like up at the top of the Grasshopper frame. You know, those holds can get pretty gunked up, and instead of having to like climb up there with a brush in your mouth and get them, I can use this to get up there. So one space saver that I figured out and basically had to figure out before I put in the Grasshopper frame and the moonboard was to change my standard garage door opener, you know, which usually runs down the center of your ceiling and is on the long rail with the chain, which eats up a lot of your ceiling space, with one of these jack shaft garage door openers, which just sits on the side of your garage door, takes up almost no space at all. and frees up all that ceiling space. So I think that was actually the first step I had to do when I was redoing this. So I took out that old one myself, ordered this from Home Depot or whatever, and you could pay someone to put it in, but it's a lot of money. Again, it took me 2 days, but I just followed the instructions and I was able to do it. And I'm kind of a bozo when it comes to construction work. So I was able to put this in. So yeah, if you're up against it space-wise and your garage door opener is part of the problem, I would definitely recommend looking into whether you could put in a jack shaft or not. You know, it's a little bit of an investment in terms of time and money, but this jack shaft garage door opener is better than the old one I had in there anyway. You know, it's not the world's biggest wall. If I took over the whole garage, it could be a lot bigger, but that would cause a lot of marital friction. But using half the garage was the compromise we reached, and you know, I feel like we definitely have done what we can to maximize the space. Thanks for coming by and checking out my climbing wall. I hope I gave you some ideas for your own wall, and cool, we will see you out at the rocks.
Thanks again, Matt, for showing us around your home wall. It was incredible. And thank you to you, the Home Climbing Wall TV community, for tuning in for another season of Home Climbing Wall TV. All right, we have more bonus episodes coming in the following weeks with Matt, and then at the beginning of each month, we'll be launching new tour videos and of course more bonus videos after that as well. So make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube, you're following over on Instagram so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.